Hi everybody, I'm Denny Schreiner, the voice of professional bowling on ESPN for nearly a decade. And joining us here today, two of the finest coaches in the world, Jeri Edwards and also Fred Borden. Fred, you know, through the years I've had a chance to watch the greatest players in our game. And without question, they all have a master plan to greatness.
Yes, Denny, and that's what we'd like to share with our players today, is one, the biomechanical movements to the foul line, the movements of the body. That's the number one part. Number two, the surface in which we play on, from the real oily lane conditions, the real violently dry lanes of ball hooking off the lanes. And number three, equipment. And Jeri, I know that's a thing that you've spent a lot of time with, that equipment.
Sure, it's really important to know about your surfaces and your pin position so you can go out and conquer those lane surfaces that we're playing on today. And then finally, the mental game. It's very important to get a handle on that so that you make good decisions and you're able to play well in today's game.
And without question, too, Fred, the best players in the world have a coach that's always watching and fine-tuning and honing their game. And I know you believe very strongly in getting your own individual coach.
Well, Denny, in all sport, you know, coaching is so important. You see people in our sport all the time, they're trying to whittle out a real good game on their own. And I'd love to have time to help every one of them. Well, we have 1,400 USA certified coaches out there, and we have many PBA players and LPBT players that are just marvelous coaches. So seek out a coach that you love to communicate with and talk with and love to be around. You have that spark, and someone that can really help evaluate how you need to get the master plan and get it implemented into your game.
Well, you got me excited, so let's get right to the very first step of the master plan to great bowling, the stance. Fred, it really doesn't make any difference what sport you're talking about, whether it would be baseball or bowling or golf. Without question, if you hope to excel and play at the highest level, you have to put yourself in a perfect position at the stance at the very beginning.
Yes, Denny, the stance is crucial. You know, we want to get that body poised, ready to go, or ready to jump like a cat, ready to make a series of athletic movements with great power and great balance all the way to the foul line, and the stance is crucial to allowing that to happen. Let's start with this approach, and let's just grow it right out of the approach. As you can notice here, Jeri's got her right foot back, and we preset the angle of the hips because when she arrives at the foul line, she's going to be on one foot. She's going to have her left foot forward, so she's going to have the right foot back. So we preset the angle of the hips. And right from the ankle to the knee, the first major joint, we want about a 3-inch forward press of the knees. Then from the knee to the hips, we want the buttocks to be pressed back to counterbalance that forward press. We want the buttocks to be back to have good centered line balance. Then from the hip right up through to the head, we want the shoulders to be slightly forward. You notice I use the word slightly. See what happens when we get too far forward, huh, Jeri?
Uncomfortable. Feel like I'm going to fall on my head.
And feel like you're going to run to catch your head.
Absolutely.
If you get moving, huh? The reverse then, Jeri, would be...
Yeah, if you lean back this way, it tends to make you go very slow.
Yeah, that lethargic motion to the foul line, just no rhythm, this is a fast dance, we got to get it going, we want to throw strikes, we want some velocity and power, don't we? So let's get that body positioned, overall posture. Then the next thing I know is a real big topic with you, something I know you worked on and then won your first title, was when you started holding the ball into a little higher position.
Yeah, let me grab a bowling ball here, Fred. I like to hold the ball a little bit higher in this position here. This allows me to hinge the ball into the swing, allows me to go a little more quickly to the foul line and create a little more ball velocity.
For a slight build person, for an older person, for a youngster that needs to get that hinge start, to get it going quicker, then the opposite would hold true. And Jeri, if we hold that ball a little lower, down in front of the thigh, that's for a person that has a tendency to run, a charged up person, a person that's real powerful that needs to take some of that power away. And then in between, a medium ball position, or anywhere in between. We have like 5 positions we like to teach, huh? The real high, medium, low, low. What you need to do is adjust it and find that position that suits you, that really matches your time mechanism or your tick. And when you match it up, you'll feel that better timing. Timing is our next topic, but it starts right here in the stance. And then, Jeri, let's talk about that elbow.
Right. Sometimes you'll see some people tuck that elbow in pretty strongly. That makes your spine tilt an awful long way over towards the right. It's not a very balanced position, plus the fact it makes you push the ball to the right.
Yeah, and it'll promote that crooked walk when you get that body all twisted up. So what we'd like to do is put that arm in straight in line with the lane, and then we want the elbow over top of the hip. not in front of the hip or not behind the hip sticking out like a wing, but right straight down. Biomechanically, we'd like to have the shoulder and the elbow be a straight line, and then choose the position that you want to fit your style. Then, Jeri, what about the opposite bowling hand?
Right, that left hand should be underneath the bowling ball to help support the weight. Sometimes if the hand gets up on top this way, again, you'll get that position where the spine gets out of position, not a very good balanced position, not a good starting position. So get that hand underneath.
So we want both hands under the ball. Choose a position best suited for you. Let's make sure the elbow's over top of the hip. Let's get centered. Let's get balanced from the head to the hips, a slight tilt forward, slight. Okay, from the hips to the knees, a slight press forward. Now we have the 3 angles, and then a nice straight line right down through the center, and we have centered, balanced position. We have the ball in the right position. Now we're ready to throw strikes.
Jeri, I wish I had $1 for every time I've heard you say, if you start with a great start, you'll end up with a great finish. I know you and Fred feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, the start is probably the most important thing in your bowling game, and there's basically 3 keys. The first one being when you move the bowling ball. And the second is how. How do you move it? The shape of that motion. And then thirdly, how fast do you move it? So I want to talk with Fred here for a minute and just discuss that a little bit. Fred, what about the when of how you move the bowling ball?
Well, Jeri, what we want to do is keep the back of the right hand over top of the right foot for right-handers. Obviously, it's the opposite for a left-hander. And we move the ball out, and we want to feel like we catch the ball with our right foot. As that ball moves out, that right foot has to be right underneath that bowling ball. So you catch the ball as it moves out and down with that right foot. So we need to make sure that that right foot and that right hand move the same every time. In fact, we've talked about it many times. We see people that would love to become good players, and they're just a little sloppy in their start. They move it out a little early, 7, 8 inches. We'll allow you a 2-inch variance. That's it. So you've got to make sure that that right hand and that foot move within 2 inches of each other every time you throw a bowling ball for the rest of your life.
That would make a big difference. And then what about the shape then, Fred? The shape would make a difference then too.
Yes, and what we'd like there is a little bit of a cylindrical motion, and we want to go out and down toward that right foot. It's a nice smooth curved arc down into the swing, or what we call unfolding of the elbow. The elbow unfolds in a nice smooth arcing motion.
So that shape is a very smooth, rounded motion. It's an aggressive motion too. And then what about the speed?
The speed is a thing that we see with good players, what they vary. They'll be going along bowling very well, and then they'll unfold it real quick and get in the swing early, and then they'll drop the ball. Or the other side of that coin is a person that gets cautious under pressure, and they move it out a little too far, they make it a little too pointed. Okay, they change the shape and the speed. Now we've changed 2 things, okay, and the distance. And now we have late time, we grab it and we pull it through. So what we like to have a person do is we need to work on the unfolding of the right elbow and the speed of that motion. And we have 3 different motions for advanced players. We want to unfold it fast when the lanes are dry. We unfold it very slow when the lanes are oily. And natural or the medium, your natural tempo, that's where you start, and then either plus it or minus it. So spend some time working on the unfolding or the speed of the motion, the shape of the motion, and when you move it. If you work on those 3, you're really going to develop that good start.
So it'd be a great start. So what if you take 4 steps or 5 steps? How does that affect what you do in your start?
The start is essentially the same for either the 4 or the 5. We just move back, we take that little baby step with the left foot, and then the start is the same for a 4 or a 5-step delivery. It doesn't matter.
So it looks basically the same. It's just a shade different because you get just a little baby step added to it. And then as I watch you play and you make your good starts, I notice your posture stays very steady. I see a very solid, very balanced look to that.
We like to refer to that as the total right side move for a right-hander. We like to feel that line that we put in the stance. It moves forward in the shoulders, the hips, the knee, the foot, the ball. Everything moves co-equal distances. We don't want to move the ball and the foot out and leave the body back. We don't want to move the body out forward and hang the ball back. We want to make sure that everything moves the same distance so we maintain perfect posture and perfect balance. So it's a total right side move. We've got to practice that and stay centered and balanced.
So what we're saying is, if you have a good start, you set up a great finish.
Exactly.
It's time now to get right down to the bottom of this magical equation that you've been talking about for all those years. T plus S equals R. Now, Fred, I'm not a mathematician by profession, so explain to me exactly what you're trying to talk about there.
Well, Denny, we talk about the real prime requisites to good play. Timing plus a swing equals a release. Let me demonstrate here with Jeri exactly what happens with that. Let's just stand still here once, Jeri, and talk about early timing. Early timing is when the ball's in front of you when you hit the foul line. Look at Jeri's shoulders. You're going to throw it over there 5 lanes left. Late timing is when we hit the foul line and the ball's back here and the left foot's come into the last step and the ball's going to be 5 lanes to the right. Right here now would be real good timing. What is timing? When the foot hits the slide or enters the slide, where is the ball? And what we would like to see there is to have the left foot enter the slide with the ball right by the right knee when we get up by the foul line. But obviously it starts here in the start. So Jeri, let's start with the start and show us your first step.
Okay, with that first step here, you get that ball moving out and along with that right foot. So there you are with the step and the ball right above the right foot.
So really all we're doing is synchronizing the arm swing with the lower body. The spine and the posture of the body here doesn't move, does it? The spine position gets set in your stance and it never moves from start to finish. All we do, then let's do that again, is we start here and we move that ball out and down and let that right foot catch the ball, and we have 1 and 1 out on the first step.
There we go with 1. And then as you move forward into your second step, the ball continues back. And if you look right here, on my second step, the ball is right beside my right calf.
A little bit behind the knee. And as you can notice here, even in our demonstration work, Jeri's maintaining posture. You've got to maintain your posture. Now the left foot is forward as the arm comes back. And as you can notice here, her left arm is forward for balance. So we're in a perfect second step position timing-wise. Arm swing versus the footwork, or the top of the body, the swing, versus the lower body, where are the legs and the feet. Take us right into 3 now, Jeri.
Okay, now into 3, ball goes to the top of the swing.
As you can notice, her swing's all the way extended here. She's still maintaining posture. That's so important that you don't allow your body to pull out of position. We have the third step, the right foot's forward. That's called the power step, and the ball's at the top of the swing. Now she can go into that 4th step, Jeri, and give us that 4th step. Right into that 4th step. Now, let's go through it once, and we'll walk through. And this is what we do with our students. We just hold our hand here, and we'll walk through 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here at this position, when that left foot enters the slide, now from here, her foot would slide forward if she had a ball in her hand, throwing it with normal power right into the release position and the follow through. So the 4th position is when that foot enters a slide, we'd like to have the ball right by the right knee.
Well, it's time for us now to start to chat about the S part of the equation and that 4-inch pro groove. This is the exciting part of the arm swing, isn't it?
Well, it sure is, because it means accuracy. When you talk about the swing part, it deals with the direction. And that's very crucial to developing great bowling skills. And so we're going to talk about accuracy and keeping that swing on the same line. So Fred, when we talk about that, when we get you in a position here, what happens with the swing and how do you develop that 4-inch groove?
Jeri, I think the 2 A's we call it. Get yourself 2 A's in your report card. Put the arm swing in line so your accuracy goes up. And what we'd like to picture there is if you're standing facing the lane and 12 o'clock in front of us, as you know, for years we used the face of a clock. 12 o'clock in front of us, 1 o'clock to the right of that, then directly behind our body, 6 o'clock and 5 o'clock. What we'd like for you to picture is if you had a bullseye right here on the shoulder socket, and you're going to draw a straight line right through that shoulder in relationship to your target. Okay, and from behind you, we want to keep that push away and the arm swing back and through within 4 inches right and left, which would be 2 inches of that straight line, wouldn't it, to keep it in that 4-inch groove. So we want to keep that swing in that 4-inch groove back and through.
Then what happens if that doesn't happen? What happens if you bring your arm in?
Yeah, we bring that arm in behind us, huh? And we have the old saying, arm in.
Ball out.
Okay, arm out.
Ball in.
So when that arm starts waving back here at the audience, you're going to throw the ball all over the lane, hitting your target is not as important as not allowing the angle to change. When you see the angle change, your ball goes out to the right, you say, wow, that ball really went to the right, or you see it go to the left, that's because your arm swing changed here behind you. It did not stay in that 4-inch groove, 2 inches each side of that straight line.
So that's very important. But then what about the shape of that shot, Fred, as far as the players? I know there are different types of players. There's crankers, there's strokers, there are rollers. What happens with the arm swing there?
We've referred to that for years as a side radius view, or the shape of the swing, whether it's like a teacup or whether it's like the saucer, whether it's an abbreviated arm swing or a cranker's arm swing. Let me demonstrate, Jerry, and explain what we're talking about there. Let's start off with a pure stroker's game. The person that, the blueprint player, the one we'd probably teach to a newer bowler if we're starting them from scratch. It's where we have a nice extension, unfold the elbow, a full swing, and then we go through. The arm is a perfect half circle. That's the stroker's swing. Now when we look at the cranker's game, the person wants to drop the thumb out a little early and snap the fingers a little harder. They'll hit up on the ball when they get to the foul line, much like a jet plane standing on its tail. So when we get to that foul line, we drop the thumb here on the downstroke, and then the arm goes up toward that ceiling.
That shape's a lot different than the stroker's shape. Well, then what about that roller?
Yeah, the roller is what we call that abbreviated swing. The person that stays over at the foul line trying to roll the ball, they're not looking for a lot of power, they're looking for roll and accuracy. So they just stay over and they sort of shut their follow-through off and just stay right down in the shot. The great Don Carter is the first man that I ever watched back in the, I hate to tell you, but it was back in the 50s, and he could just stay down and push the ball toward his target. Boy, was he accurate, one of the most accurate players in the history of our sport.
Those are two keys. Then the other thing that's I think needs to be addressed is the height of the swing, that the height stays the same from shot to shot.
Yeah, especially in the heat of the battle, Jerry. We see people that get a little fast and their swing gets higher, or they get cautious and they get a little low with their swing. And we have a little thing that we like to bring to people's attention. If my swing were shoulder high, or a little below the shoulder, that's flexibility. Has a lot to do with body build. Age might have something to do with it. You know, if I have a little shorter swing, you have a little higher swing.
Right.
My swing used to be a little higher. Okay, but wherever it is, make sure that you find that position for you through use of a video or your coach, and make sure in the heat of the battle you have that full swing every time, your full swing. If you shorten it 12 inches,
that's like 24, Fred. 12 up, 12 down, and that certainly makes a difference on how you feel at the release.
Boy, that changes that timing, doesn't it, Jerry? If you shorten it 12, it's going to get there early, you're going to drop it off your hand. If you lengthen it 12, you're going to get there late and grab it and snap on it. So backswing height is very important.
Okay, and then finally, what about the speed?
Yeah, you know what we do there, we talked about the start and the unfolding of the elbow. When we talked about the start of the ball out on that first step of a 4-step delivery or the second step of a 5, it's the unfolding of that elbow. What we'd like a person to do is feel that quick, a little smoother, slower, and teach yourself to feel the motion. Okay, to feel the motion, we have a little saying with Team USA, match your motion to the lane and you will bowl a very good game. Let me expound a little bit more on that. The fast motion for dry lanes, the slower motion for oily lanes, and then your normal drum beat, your normal motion for the medium lane condition.
That about does it. We're talking about the S part of that equation. That's the second part.
A for accuracy goes along with A for the arm swing. Work on it and you'll become a real good player.
Well, we finally got to the finish line, or the foul line. I guess basically that's the way you'd like to talk about it. But Fred, let's talk about balance and also leverage equaling power, and that's really very, very important in terms of the finish.
Yes, and there's two positions, Denny, from the side view where we get that person, that weightlifter's position with that spine, and then that back to front view where we get the right leg over and the right arm up for balance so that we have half the body on the right side of the spine, half the body on the left side of the spine. Jerry, if we could, go right off this lead step right into the finish position. As you can notice, that right arm finished right up toward the ceiling. If we were to draw a line now from her nose through her knee to her toe, that's a straight line. That knee is slightly forward, the same as it was back in the stance. The spine has maintained the exact position. So the only thing that really happened is that her hips got lower as she walked the line, which we're going to talk about here when the close of the biomechanical movements explaining the whole process. So we've got the spine to the hip, the 45-degree bend here from the hip to the knee, and then from the knee to the ankle, slightly tilted forward with the arm close to the head, right up toward the ceiling. Now, Jeri, the other view, the one that I know is very important for ladies, is the use of the legs.
Absolutely. Going in from that last step into that finish, I put quite a bit of pressure on that right leg to help clear it and help throw with some power. So that right leg is aggressive as I go from the next to last step into the sliding step.
So we like to talk about it as two lines, don't we? If we can get in that position again, Jeri. Now we talk about the line from her head right down to her left foot. That's the balance line. In order to stay balanced, then we have the right arm and the ball over here on the right side of the body coming through. We need the right leg over there. It clears out of the way for power and balance, and it needs to be over there between 7 and 8 o'clock. And the arm completes right up here between 12 and 1. So we have the straight line through the center of the body, the diagonal line across the body for balance. If you can get in those two positions, you're going to have a perfect finish.
Boy, that feels powerful. And when I get in that position, I always feel like I'm going to make a great shot.
I hope you can see each position and each topic we talk about. There's not a million things to worry about, but we need to weld all these little parts and pieces together to really develop a good bowling game.
It's time for us now to become more acquainted with the 3 M's, minimum, medium, and maximum. And if you get those 3 right, Fred, you're going to end up with other M's in terms of money when you win all these championships. And there really is a difference, too, between hand action and wrist action.
Exactly, Denny. It's pretty simple. It's not real complicated, as a lot of people think. We have the wrist action works up and down, and the hand action works sideways, straight line, makes the ball go a little straighter. If we cock that hand, then it makes it loop and hook more. So we work the wrist up and down, and the hand back and sideways. So, Coach, why don't you show us your medium position, your starting position, the one I know that you use when you first go into league play.
Right here it is, with the very medium, firm wrist and firm hand action. No cocking, just a very straight wrist position and straight hand position.
So if we were to draw a line from your elbow off your little finger, it'd be pointing pretty much at your target then.
Right.
And then this would be relatively flat or very straight.
Sure, and then that's the position that's loaded, and I maintain that to the release point.
We do that when the lanes are medium. Now let's say, Jeri, the lanes were very oily. You're really going to try to put a lot on the bowling ball. Show us that maximum position.
Okay, what I would do is cock the hand slightly, about 10-15%, and then cup the wrist slightly also, another 10-15%. So it's a subtle change here, but it changes my hand position, gives me a stronger, firmer position in my stance, and creates a stronger release position too.
Then we call that loaded, and you keep that loaded until you get up to that release position, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I think there's a little more that we need to talk about, especially with you. I know you've done some wrist curls to strengthen your forearm, to get those the flexors a little stronger in there.
Right, you need to do that to be able to actually use this position, especially people who are smaller boned and have smaller ligaments and tendons and muscles. You need to do those workouts so that you create a little strength here so you can actually put your hand in that position. And it's a subtle difference, Fred. It's not a major deal. So I don't try to, really wrap my hand up and around because it hurts me. So it's just a little bit, 15% for me, 15 and 15%.
Yeah, I hear you. As a matter of fact, years ago, I got into I'm really going to cup it. Well, I cupped it so much, all I did was flip it and develop the twirl shot for a while and really hurt my game. I overdid a good thing. So we use this in small doses. Jeri, now the minimum position.
Minimum position right here, with the wrist position actually slightly broken. This I love to use for my spares, or for when the lanes are a little spotty and I have to play a little bit more direct, or if the lanes are really dry, because this allows me to get the ball down the lane.
They're real dry, you'd really break it down. Really break it down and really get the fingers outside and point the fingers a little in the outside of the hand. Huh?
Absolutely.
So we have outside and broke down, we have straight, and we have cocked and cupped.
That's a big difference from shot to shot to shot, because it changes the shape of the shot tremendously at the release point.
We don't know of many baseball pitchers that makes it in major leagues with one release. We don't know of many players on the PBA Tour that makes it with one release. You have to have a multitude of releases. So Jerry, we load it in the stance, and now we keep it loaded as we walk to the foul line and get to that release position. We keep it in that position.
Right, so here we go. I've got it loaded. I'm in my max position. All right, and I go ahead and move through my approach, and I get right into here in the release position. The hand's still loaded.
Kept that wrist and that hand inside, kept that wrist in a strong position. Now, three things happen at this point. As the arm is going down toward the floor, the thumb starts dropping out of the ball on the downstroke. The wrist releases and relaxes, and then the arm follows through. So we do two things right here is drop the thumb, let the wrist get relaxed, which allows the fingers to rotate the ball, and then the third thing is finish the arm into that good finish position. Now we've kept it loaded, and we unload it. Really, huh, Jerry?
Absolutely. Unload it at the right time. Comes off the hand and ends up being a great shot.
Regardless of what most people try and tell you, this game is not as complicated as some people would lead you to believe. Fred, I know you've got it down to 6 basic common denominators.
Yes, Danny, it really is that simple. It's 6 moves. It's 3 from the waist down and 3 from the waist up. Let's explain those, Coach. First move, footwork forward. 4 steps or 5 step. Forward movement of the footwork. Second move. Now as Jeri goes forward, she's going to lower her hips as the footwork goes forward. Move 2, lowering of the hips. Then 3, we'll look at it from the back view here, and we'll see the right leg, clearing of the right leg. So we have footwork forward, lower the hips, clear the right leg. Those are the 3 movements. Waist down. Now, Coach, let's talk about the upper body.
All right, with the upper body, the first thing we talk about is the arm swing. The arm swings as you move to the foul line.
Okay, so she's going to swing her right arm back and through. Being a right-handed player, it's just the swinging of the right arm. Now, movement 2, we're going to watch from the back here. And we're going to watch her left arm as she walks the foul line, swings her right arm. Her left arm will go out for balance. That's movement 2. And this whole time, her spine is staying very still. And, Jeri, you're really trying to maintain that balance the entire way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then finally, the last thing has to do with that little E.
The E, that means everything. Okay? We watch that from the back view. A coach's eye would watch the back of the glove and watch the E, and the third movement is when her arm is passing her ankle, she's going to unload it and let her wrist and hand action happen as it goes into the follow-through. Great, Coach. It's really that simple. They're just 6 moves. Steps toward the foul line. That's move 1. 2 is lowering of the hips. 3 is clearing of the right leg. That's waist down.
And then waist up. You've got your arm swing.
Left arm out for balance.
And then finally, that wrist position, keeping that wrist loaded to the release point, and that release point happening right there by your foot.
Right into that follow-through, and when you can do those 6 moves, do them every day, on every shot for the rest of your life, we're going to be watching you on television.
Well, we put the finishing touches on learning all about the physical game, and now it's time once again for yet another equation. A plus E equals R. And Fred, I know that you believe very strongly in that if you want to take your game to the highest level, you certainly have to make the right decisions in terms of your equipment.
Yes, Denny, the A part, what angle do I want to play? Then we go to the E part, what piece of equipment am I going to use? I'm going to use a shiny piece of equipment, I may want to move to the right. If I'm going to use a duller piece of equipment, I may want to move to the left. So we have the A, the angle, plus the equipment equals the result. So that's what we really want to talk about today. We'll talk about choosing the right ball for you. And when you choose the right ball and line up with the right angle, it's pretty easy.
All right, there are a number of items of concern during this particular session. First and foremost, let's talk about the grip. That obviously is where the whole game begins.
That's really a huge topic, and you know the grip is something it's unlike for you and no one else. You have to have an engineered grip that fits your hand, and that's where the IPSIA Pro Shop operator comes in. They're trained experts. They know a lot about fitting a hand and giving you some more pitch in the finger holes so you can hang the fingers a little longer, a little less pitch so you can get it off your hand a little quicker. So you need to get to know your IPSIA Pro Shop operator, the trained specialist that will fit your hand within a 64th of an inch and make your hand and that ball feel like a glove fit. And boy, does the ball feel good when you get the proper fit.
Jeri, I know you were a great bowler in your own right, but you probably never had to throw a strike with half a bowling ball. Why is it that we've got some of these balls that are sawed in half here today? I guess to take a look at the inside.
Right. The inner construction makes a big difference in your bowling game, too, and gives you a different reaction. And so these sawed in half balls show you how they vary from ball to ball. And in this particular case, this bowling ball here has the weight block, this red area here, higher towards the outside of the bowling ball or towards the shell. And this creates a little bit more skid on the bowling ball, and so the ball will go longer down the lane before it actually hooks. All right. The second ball here is actually an example of a lightweight ball. It's very hot. It's like a styrofoam type material, and it allows us to create lightweight bowling balls that the kids can use. And then finally, this last bowling ball here is a very contemporary bowling ball and has a globular shaped type weight block in it. The mass is in towards the center. This makes the ball roll much earlier and allows you to get a reaction to get the ball hooking a little earlier on the lanes. Now, this is really an important area, and I know just talking with a lot of women, that women, you know what, we need to get into this too. And don't be afraid to ask some questions. And the pro shop operators, those specialists, they'll help you understand. And that's really important for us.
Okay, Coach, if I'm hearing what you're saying, then as we're talking about two items of concern, and that you have to get very close with your pro shop operator, the trained specialist, the IPSIA member that's a trained technician in the art of fitting that hand, to give you that glove-like feeling, to get the right grip. And then you put the same grip in each ball that you own, and you may have 4 different bowling balls. When you go out to a tournament, you need to have the arsenal. Your trained specialist can help you develop an arsenal, one that skids longer, one that rolls a little earlier, one that rolls a little earlier than that one that really sparks when it hits the lanes. If the lanes are oily, a ball for oil, a ball for dry lanes, a ball for intermediate. Now you have an arsenal. You can go bowl all over the world and have a chance at winning those tournaments.
Now that we have a good grip on all of our grips at this stage, and we've had a chance to look at the inside of several bowling balls, get you a little feel there, let's talk about something, Fred, I know you feel very strongly about, and in essence it's about 70% of the overall game, and that's which cover to choose based on what you're playing on that night.
Then as you can see, all 4 of these bowling balls are the same make and model, but they are entirely different as they roll down a lane for one reason: the coefficient of friction of the cover. And if you look at this ball has been sanded very smooth with a very smooth sandpaper and then buffed with a compound to give it a very shiny finish, and this ball will skid down the lane longer. It's like a piece of ice. You can't grab the surface. And let's say the lane were just a little bit oilier, and this one's for very dry lanes. Now we want something to roll a little sooner. This ball has been sanded with smooth paper and then buffed just a little bit. Just a little bit. So the coefficient of friction is 1 step down.
And then this ball here isn't quite as shiny as this ball. This one has been finished with a higher grit sandpaper, say 1000 grit, and it's a little smoother, so it'll hook a little more than this one, but not as much as this one. This one is straight out of the box from the factory. It's finished with 320 grit sandpaper, so it's very rough, very dull. This ball works great when the lanes are very, very oily. So you can see this ball, they all looked exactly like this one when they got here, and then we worked on them, and by the time we're all finished, they look very different.
Jeri, I know that brings memories back for both you and I at the World Team Cup in Malaysia. When we bowled day 1, we were in 6th place, and then we fine-tuned some covers for some of our players, and we moved up to 4th, and we went back in and did some more work on the covers of the ball, and then we finally had it right. And we had our big wrist players and our turn players and our gals that really put a lot on it, the Liz Johnsons, we had them using this ball with a shiny cover. Then we had our players that throw less hand and throw it harder using this 320 grit ball and rolling the ball into the pocket. We had them all playing 200 average. We had different covers for different athletes to match their style on that lane condition, and that's why the U.S. came home with a gold. We matched the cover of the ball to the lane surface.
Now we've come to the exciting part. Let's talk about pins, not the pins at the end of the lane, but the pins, in essence, coaches, that are in the bowling balls. Now, there's leverage weight, there's axis weight, and for a layman like myself, it gets pretty confusing. Can you make it a little simpler for me or for the folks that are watching today, Fred, and give us an idea of what you mean by pin positions?
Yeah, it's really pretty simple. I think some of the terms scare us when we talk about leverage and axis of rotation. And really all we're talking about is where we drill the ball in relationship to this yellow dot. Now, some bowling balls have a yellow dot, some bowling balls have a white dot, some have different colors, some have a dot the same color of the ball. They're harder to detect. But really what we're doing is we're talking about this pin position and how we drill the ball in relationship to the pin.
And you can see in this cutaway ball here that the pin is right here and the weight block sits directly below the pin. When they make the bowling ball, they have the weight block and they have it attached to this pin, and then they pour the rest of the material around the bowling ball. So this pin gives you a true sense of exactly where that weight block is in relationship to the surface of the bowling ball, and so then you can develop your grip and know where you put that weight block by where that pin is.
And then we talk the word dynamics, the rotation. We can change the rotation of the ball by the position of the pin. When I say we, the IPSIA Pro Shop operator, the specialist that engineers your grip and engineers the balance in the pin position to match your style and your game and help you develop an arsenal of different bowling balls with different pin positions for different reactions. First, Coach, let's start with the one that goes the straightest, and that's where we put the pin right in the middle of the grip or closer to the fingers, up a little bit toward the fingers, or in what we call label balance, and that would be in this orientation where that pin is standing up. Then the next drilling could be where we lay it over on its side and we drill the ball over here. Now we have the pin laying down, or you can see the weight block's laying on its side. Now that will roll very quick. I didn't say hook, it will roll. It's called axis balance. Then we have the one in between, the leverage balance. The leverage balance is where it's at a 45-degree angle. And what happens is it goes down the lane, the dynamics of that ball, that'll make that ball snap, or in today's vernacular, the young players are calling it make the ball turn the corner. It'll be the strongest hooking bowling ball or the strongest layout, or also create the maximum flare. As your track moves, it'll make that ball really snap down by the pins. So it's our job as ball drillers, as coaches, to help you, the athlete, figure out what balls do I need in my arsenal. Do I need some pins in the upright position? I need some pins in the leverage position. I need some pins in the axis position to play the varied lane conditions.
Well, Fred and Jeri, we worked ourselves all the way from the very beginning here up to the foul line, and there really is a whole different game beyond the foul line, Fred, and if you're going to be a world-class player, you have to be a world-class reader of lanes.
It really is, Denny. You put your mind out there, watch the ball reaction. Some people say, well, how do you read lanes? Watch your ball, okay? And the first item of concern is how far does the ball skid? If we have a lot of heavy oil and it's very long down the lane, say 40 feet of oil, which we use a lot in international competition or on the PBA tour, the LPBT tour, longer oil than we do in league play a lot of times, then you would need a ball with a very coarse 320 grit paper. So the length of the oil pattern, that's the first thing you want to try to figure out when you go into play. How far is the oil today? Is it real long? My ball is skidding, and then when it gets into the hook and it never gets into the roll, then I need a ball with a very coarse finish to it, something very raspy, something will grab that lane surface. And then conversely, if we talk about a lane that's real dry and short oil, the ball's going to hook real quick, then you need to go to that polished ball. So that's the first item of concern, is the distance of the oil. Then two, we're going to talk about the width, huh, Coach? We need to look at that width.
Sure, because they apply the oil from side to side also, and sometimes you've got a heavier concentration of oil in the middle and less on the outside. And so you would play that lane differently than if they had no oil in the middle and a lot of oil on the outside. So from shot to shot and from day to day, you may have to change your angle to match that oil pattern on the lane. So the width of the oil, how it's placed on the lane from side to side, is very important also.
So, Coach, if I'm following you then, the width creates the angle where I stand on the approach. The length creates what cover of bowling ball do I want to use, real rough or very shiny. If it's short oil, I use shiny. If it's long oil, then I use more of a sanded bowling ball. Then we have the third item of concern, the pin position. And what we do there is we look at the back end, the last 15 feet, the hook power of the ball. How strong does that ball make a move toward the pocket? In the young person's vernacular today, say, does the ball turn the corner? And if we want to turn the corner real hard, let's say we're throwing a ball down the line, gets down the back end, it's laboring. It never wants to make a move. That's when we want to go to that ball with leverage weight. Now let's say, Jerry, we just want to make the ball roll.
You might go to that axis-weighted ball because that'll get that ball in a real heavy roll. Just keep rolling all the way down the lane, and it never does any violent moves.
It's just a good heavy roll ball. That's especially good when the lanes are a little spotty or a little tricky. It's a good ball to keep on line, and it doesn't make any snap to the left, and it doesn't skid, but it just rolls. Then number 3 is where we have that pin right in the center of your grip, and that's good when the back ends are making that violent reaction, where we want to tame it down and make it hook a little softer. So we have the 3 different properties out there. We have the distance of the oil, we have the width of the oil, and then we have the back end hook power. And we have the cover of the ball, we have the angle, and we have the pin position. You're on your way.
I guess I feel like I've got a lot of the pieces to the puzzle so far, coaches, but I need now to assemble them all into a winning championship type puzzle, and I know you've got a 4-shot routine that will allow me or any other player to get a very good feel for lane conditions on a daily basis.
Yes, we talk about reading that oil lengthwise and width. And how do we do that? We want you to throw the first shot the 7-pin. You use your medium, a hook bowling ball with a medium cover in that arsenal in the range of hook power. Use the medium ball with a medium wrist action, medium speed, throwing your normal 7-pin shot, and you watch the ball. And you watch when it hits the middle of that lane, does it skid to the right and miss the 7-pin right? Or does it hook real quick and real violent and snap off into the channel left? Or does it just a nice medium arc action? So first shot we want to throw it the 7-pin. Then we go to shot 2, Coach.
Second shot's the 10-pin shot. One of those shots you're going to have to make a lot during the night. But secondly, when you make your shot at that 10-pin, again, you're reading that middle part of the lane. If the lane's very oily and you make your normal 10-pin shot with a medium hand position and a medium ball, that ball may just drop off into the right-hand gutter. And if they're really dry in the middle, it might snap right away from that 10-pin. So you're getting a read again on that middle part of the lane. The third shot would be your 2-pin shot. Now, as a right-handed player, a lot of times you're going to leave a 2-pin combination, either a bucket or a 1-2-4 or a 2-pin. So you need to know how to make that 2-pin. So you're going to shoot that 2-pin, and it's giving you the fine-tuning on how much oil is in the middle. And then finally, you get to go to your strike shot.
We need to put the package together to be able to hit the pocket. Okay, now let's say we threw it the 7-pin and the ball skidded to the right and never made the turn. We threw it the 10-pin and it skidded off the lane and went in the channel right. How would we shoot the 2-pin? We would move to the right. So when you're making that adjustment on the 2, move a little right, and that starts to tell you how to hit the pocket. We take the big picture from the 7, the 10, the 2, and we compress it down to the little picture, the 3-4 board area to hit that pocket. If the lanes were real oily, we would use our rough textured bowling ball. We would move to the right, maybe firm up the wrist, slow it down, or roll it right up the second arrow. The other side of the coin, Coach, if they were real dry, we could move way inside, use a shiny ball, and we could arc it out and let it hook, and we could make the ball turn the corner. So we have to read the lane by the 4-shot system, the 7, the 10, the 2, and then the pocket, make the angle decision, make the ball decision, wrist decision, and the speed decision. Now you've got the parts and the pieces working for you every time you go out to play.
There's a reason why I have a big smile on my face. I mean, I've got the right piece of equipment, I've got the right angle, the right wrist position. I'm all set to go. I'm going to stand in the same spot and become La Machine. I'm going to strike all night long. Unfortunately, this is not a perfect world, though, is it?
Well, you know, Denny, that might work for about 10, 12 frames. Maybe sometimes even 5 or 6, and you have to make an adjustment. You have to make that move. And what happens, especially we see people to think, oh, this is where I bowl. I bowl right at that big center dot. Not right at the big center dot every day on every lane in the world. That won't work. You have to make the angle changes, the ball changes, and there's 2 things that happen. And number 1, Coach, let's talk a little bit about we find the basic pattern that we talked about in finding the right angle and the right ball, and that'll last for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 frames. It varies the amount of oil that's on the lane.
Right, and so you've got yourself and you're set and you feel pretty good. You're making a lot of shots, and all of a sudden you start to see the ball go a little farther before it hooks. It's called oil carry down. They put oil in the front part of the lane, and as you bowl, your ball actually picks up the oil and transfers it down towards the back end of the lane. And so sometimes as you're bowling, you feel like, boy, I'm all lined up, and all of a sudden the ball starts to go a little too long. That's the time you've got to bump it to the right. We like to call it a bump because it's a small move to the right to keep yourself in the pocket. But you have to do that because the oil does move. And then after oil carry down, sometimes another little culprit sneaks into the picture, and that's
the head breakdown. And that oil that's being carried down to the back end of the lane is being taken off the front portion of the lane. So what happens is you watch that ball, you had this much hook power on the back end when you started, all of a sudden that hook power is reduced to half as much, and you're blaming yourself. What am I doing different? You're not doing anything different. The oil is moving. It's being taken off the front part of the lane, being deposited into the back section of the lane. So we call that the bump. About a one board move is a bump. We bump it a board right, we bump it another board right, we bump it another board right, so you may go 3 boards right, then all of a sudden the oil starts dissipating and being carried down off the front part of the lane, so where it was real level oil all the way across, now it starts opening up like the Red Sea. And as those balls are being thrown on the front part, that area now has an 8 or 10 inch area in the front part of the lane. It gets very dry. So when we throw the ball into that front part of the lane, it starts sparking and grabbing and hooking. Now we have early hook. So now we have to jump to the left. So we start out bump, bump, bump to the right because of oil carry down, and then as everybody bowls in that area, the front part of the lane gets dry, so now you bump it over to the left and move inside of the dry heads and find some fresh oil to the left. Here's the message. Work with your certified coach. Work with your IPSIA Pro Shop guy. Get your bowling balls and get your arsenal developed. Go out there and start to experiment and play the different lanes, playing to the right, playing to the left, and then making your adjustment through the course of your competition in an evening. If you will stay dialed into that lane by moving and making the proper adjustment at the right time, you'll be the best player in your league, and you can win those tournaments if you play the lane.
We have finally arrived at the final equation here, Coach Borden, and without further ado, why don't you tell everybody exactly what it is?
Well, we have the A portion of the equation, which is your attitude when you play the game. If you have the right attitude, is it a fun environment when you play? Are you focused? Are you playing the game with the right mindset, we call it? That's the A portion, the attitude. And then the R is the routine. Do you have a routine in which to play the game? That A plus R equals P, the performance. So if you have the right attitude with a proper routine, then the performance will really escalate. So let's go through that whole routine portion of the program is when the person's sitting down back here, what's the athlete thinking? The athlete right now would be thinking, well, what angle am I going to play? What are the lanes like? I just threw my 4-shot routine. I want to choose my equipment, my rotation, what release of the 3 M's. What speed am I going to throw? Am I going to throw it real fast? Am I going to throw it soft because the lanes are oily? The 4 adjustments. What angle, what equipment, what rotation, and what speed. Now I make those decisions back here in my office, sitting down. And then after I make those decisions, I can talk to the family. I can talk to my friends. How you doing? How's work? What's going on? Then comes the next step, the pre-shot routine, right here. You can talk all you want back here about having fun, but when you get into this area, what we like to picture, number 1, is a big sign hanging out of the ceiling. And every center you go to, what I like to have our athletes picture is a big sign with their favorite color. I like a white sign with big blue letters on it that says focus. The eye of the tiger. We've got to be focused. Right at this area now, Jeri is focused. She's looking at that lane. 1, we have to be focused. Then 2, though, we have to get relaxed. We don't want to over-focus. We want to relax. So we use a breathing technique, a diaphragmatic breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Get yourself relaxed. Let all the tension drip out of your fingertips and fall onto the floor, and get yourself ready to throw a great shot, which leads to item 3. We think about mental routine, that mental imagery. We're talking about watching the shot go down the lane, throwing that ball. and we see the line on the lane. Right now, Jeri's picturing the line on the lane. I happen to know that Jeri likes the purple line, right from the foul line or lay down point over a target to the breaking point into the pocket. And if the lanes are oily, obviously that would be a straighter line. If the lanes are dry, she'd be standing to the left with a bigger arc angle. So she sees that purple line, and she changes the picture or the shape of that purple line according to the lane in the shot that she pre-engineered. She's now focused, she's calm, she sees the line. Now we go into the next part of the routine, which is using the rosin bag. If you use a rosin bag, you tap the thumb hole 3 times, do it 3 times every time, not 15 times and 2 times. That shows you're nervous to yourself. You have to get your routine, your physical and mental routine. We're trying to become a machine here. Okay, so you wipe the ball off with a towel, if that's what you like to do in your own specific routine. And now we know what angle, we have all the inputs in, we're focused, we're ready to go. We may have one shot, flex the knees and go. We hear the word, just do it. Hit print. The computer's loaded. Don't stand on the approach and think. The 3 best players in the world in the history of our sport were the fastest players in the world, and we study them very closely. We notice that the good players don't take much time up here. If you stand here too long, you'll confuse yourself by overthinking. Do your thinking, your pre-engineering area, then you stand here beside the ball return, your pre-shot routine, you pick the ball up, get on the approach and just do it, hit print, get ready, walk up there and throw your strike. I hope the technological information we've shared with you will really help take you to the next level. Remember, get yourself a USA certified coach, IPSI a ball driller coach, LPBT, PBA person that really understands, that can help you with your bowling game. But I have a closing message I'd like to share with you. Let's have some good sportsmanship in our game. We see people on national television playing for a world championship. When they're done, they hug each other, they shake hands. Let's put that right into our competition each night. Remember, we're not playing each other. We're playing the lanes. We're using equipment, the technological end. Have fun with it. That's one, good sportsmanship, and be a goodwill ambassador. We need more players. We need to bring our people from work into the sport of bowling, our family into the sport of bowling. This is America's sport, the family sport. This is a great sport for all ages, so we want you to have great sportsmanship, be a goodwill ambassador, and above all, have a lot of fun with your bowling game.